Have you ever walked away from a difficult conversation and thought, why didn't I say so and so? Perhaps you knew exactly what you wanted to say and you had a perfectly reasonable point to make. But in that moment, something happened. Your mind went blank, the words disappeared. And the frustrating thing is, you know they were there. You weren't confused and you weren't without an opinion, nor were you incapable of expressing yourself. You simply couldn't access those words at the exact moment you needed them most. Then, usually later when the conversation's over and there's no pressure anymore, the perfect response suddenly appears, and that can be incredibly frustrating because you know the words were there all along. You know what you wanted to say, you simply couldn't reach them when you needed them. Over time, this can become more than just a frustrating moment. It can affect how willing you are to speak up and ask for what you need, challenge something that doesn't feel right, or trust yourself in difficult situations, be that at home or at work. You might find yourself thinking, why does this keep happening when it matters most? And maybe instead of going quiet, you might become emotional. The tears arrive, you feel overwhelmed, and afterwards wonder, why did I react like that? I should have been able to handle it. Many capable, intelligent people experience this. The people who are confident in lots of areas in their lives, and the people who can solve problems, manage responsibility, and support others. Yet when conflict, criticism, or disagreement appears, something changes. They struggle to access the very skills they normally rely on. And because part of you knows this is simply a conversation, you know you are allowed to have a different opinion, and another part of you is responding as though something much bigger is happening. So what's going on? This is where the nervous system comes in, and our nervous systems respond and react before we have a chance to process quite often. And your nervous system is there, it's designed to protect you, and it's constantly scanning your environment, looking for signs of safety or threat. But it doesn't only respond to physical danger, it also responds to experiences that feel emotionally significant, such as being criticized or rejected or misunderstood, or disappointing someone, maybe feeling judged or feeling as though you have to get everything exactly right. And for some people, conflict is not experienced as a simple difference of opinion. It carries much bigger emotional weight. And this comes because your nervous system has learned over time that this isn't safe for you. And if your experiences have taught you that conflict can lead to criticism, withdrawal, anger, tension, or emotional discomfort, your system may have learned that the safest response to protect you was to just keep quiet. And that's what this protection looks like. Sometimes it's being quiet, sometimes it looks like tears, sometimes it looks like over explaining and apologizing or trying desperately to find the perfect words. And sometimes it looks like replaying the conversation afterwards, imagining all the things you wish you said. The important thing to understand is that these responses are learned, and because they are learned, they are responses that can change. And I remember experiencing something like this many years ago when I worked in an IT department, and there were three of us in the team, all computer programmers, and we worked very well together. And at the time, our manager was one of the cleverest people I have ever met. But what made him stand out? But he was approachable and supportive and someone you could talk to. And when he gave us a job, he always made sure we understood the spec. Now, when he left and a new manager joined the department, I still remember that first meeting. And what surprised me was my own reaction because I found myself struggling to find words. I knew what I thought and what I wanted to say, but somehow I couldn't access it in that moment. One of my colleagues responded very differently. She became so overwhelmed, she burst into tears and left the room. And looking back now, what interests me is not just what happened in the meeting, it's how quickly we all responded before we even had time to fully process what was happening. So three capable professional women, three different responses. One person became quiet, one person became emotional, And our other colleague, once one of us had left the room, was desperately trying to smooth things over, and then afterwards was worrying about what she should have done. And that's because the nervous system is not waiting for a logical analysis before it responds. It's just trying to protect you. And what I find fascinating about moments like this is our reactions can feel automatic, as though they happen before we have a choice. Now, with the right support, it's possible to create more space between what happens and how you respond, so you can feel more confident expressing yourself even when conversations feel difficult. So the thing is that a response that may once have helped you to cope can become frustrating when it continues into situations where you want to speak and to contribute and to be heard. And it's not because you have an issue with your intelligence or your confidence or your ability to communicate. The problem is that in certain moments, something gets in the way of you accessing those parts of yourself. And the goal is not to remove conflict from your life, because conflict is very much part of being human. And it's not about becoming someone who never feels uncomfortable. It's about developing the confidence that you can handle discomfort. That you can disagree with someone and remain connected to yourself. That you can express your thoughts without needing everyone else to agree. That you don't have to predict every possible reaction before you're allowed to speak. Real confidence doesn't come from always knowing the perfect thing to say. It comes from trusting yourself enough to know that whatever happens, you can find a suitable response. So if you recognize yourself in these patterns, going blank, becoming emotional, shutting down, or rehearsing conversations again and again, perhaps the question is not, what's wrong with me? A better question could be, what did my nervous system learn about conflict and is still behaving in the same way to try and help me today? Your past may explain your patterns. It doesn't have to define your future. And if this has helped you understand your own reactions a little differently, and you'd like support in understanding why these patterns happen, and how you can begin creating more choice in the way you respond, I'd love to help. You can find more information about working with me in the description below.